Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. Here with a very special guest today, the one and only Rik Knows Hoops. How's it going, my man?
I appreciate the invite, man. I'm excited to talk hoops with you.
Yeah, man. I think this is our second official collab, which is great. We did that draft a few weeks back. So now it's great that we get to, I guess, converse on my show. Um, but I guess, we got a lot of topics that we're going to touch on today. I think the first topic kind of can be broken down into three different ones. It's seeding races. The playoffs are just around the corner, and I kind of wanted to touch on some of these seeding races where you think who's gonna, I guess, win each race. So I guess we could start off with the battle for the one seed in the East. The four teams being, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Miami, and Boston. Those teams are just like right there. So I guess to ask you, like, what order, or do you have a specific order you think they're going to finish in, or who do you think is going to finish with that first seed?
It's funny because I feel like the first seed is a little this year because you got Brooklyn down there in the play-in, and it's kind of like, do you want to play Brooklyn in that first round? That's just the big question. Like me personally, as a Celtics fan, I want them to avoid the top two seeds as much as possible. I'd rather play a Toronto Raptors team or a Chicago Bulls team in the first round than potentially play Brooklyn. Like that just seems like a death sentence. But with that being said, I think Milwaukee's probably best suited to get the first seed. I feel like they're the most complete team in the Eastern Conference. I feel like they've been the most all season long, and they're getting healthy at the right time. I think that's a big, piece of this. Brook Lopez looked really good last night, and if he's, anything of what he was like last season and the year before, that's another great asset to have to this team. And they've just been playing so well all year. Giannis is arguably an MVP this season. Like he's been playing that good. He's had a big game last night. Drew Holiday's been big time. Chris
Facts.
Middleton, All Star again. I think that's in the East that if they're, I don't think they'll care if they play Brooklyn because they've beaten them before, and I'm sure they'll be confident that they can do it again. Now, as the rest of the order goes, I would probably go at two. I feel like with Boston, Rob Williams, that it could be maybe a little big time. They just lost the game the other night. I know JB and JT did not play, but I think the injury is pretty big. I think it is. I think they could fall. I mean, right now they're at four. I could see them staying there, man. I could definitely see other team Philly. I could see Philly being the third seed for sure. That's probably the order I would go in right now. Milwaukee, then you got Miami, Philly, and then Boston to round it out.
Yeah, I don't think I have that many changes. I agree with you. I think that the Bucks will probably end up first. Their schedule isn't that tough for the rest of the year, and like you said, like they're getting healthier by the day. And it seems like we're starting to see Giannis kind of even take off to another level. Like he's activating playoff mode as we're winding down like the final few games. So I could expect the Bucks to take that first seed. I think it will be close though. I think the second seed will probably be Philadelphia. Embiid also playing like an MVP candidate this whole season really. The only thing is, that game the other night was huge because it broke the tiebreaker, and now Milwaukee's going to have it, and they have a game edge, and there's only so many games to go around. I think Philly is going to start winning most of these games near the end of the year, though, because I think I checked the other day. I think they have like the easiest schedule left, so they're probably going to do pretty well with most of those games. And then third, I got Miami, and fourth, I got Boston. I think it could honestly go either way, though, because the Celtics, they've been like really the best team in the whole East, like well, especially since All-Star break, especially since probably midway point of the season. I think 41 games in, they were under 500, and now they came all the way back. They took over the one seed at one point, and they're still right there. So just the way they're playing, the way Miami's been trending lately. I know they ended that losing streak the other night against Sacramento, but I mean, they've had a few ugly games lately, so I could very well see Boston being 3 and Miami 4, but I think I'm going to roll with the other way around. And like you said, I think it's weird because, see, I'm even like a Bulls fan, but I feel like it's weird because a lot of the teams in the middle almost seem like they're less of a threat in a way to teams at the end. Like we'll talk about the Clippers here in a bit, but you even said like the Nets, like the Nets arguably might be the scariest team in the East according to some people, and they're right now in 8th. They might be in 9th. So I just think all that's crazy. But I don't know. You got any other thoughts on that?
Touch on Brooklyn real quick because I said on my podcast like we was doing like contenders versus pretenders, and I was saying about Brooklyn, I'm like, this is not their year. I don't think so, but they're still a scary team just for the simple fact that you have KD and you have Kyrie, and those two dudes handily can win games in the postseason. Like they're just that good, and the top seed conference, you work this whole season to get a top seed to get home court advantage, and then your reward is you have to play Brooklyn in the first round. That's just like it seems like it kind of reminds me of the Lakers last season. I think people forget that Lakers team was really good. They just had a lot of injuries, and they were giving us everything they could until AD went down. So that's potential 8 seed that you'll have to play in the first round, man.
Yeah, I guess it's just like weird how the balancing in the seeding has gone lately. But those teams in the middle, I guess we can progress to their little race right now. So the 5, 6, 7 in the East. Currently, I think it's in the order of my Chicago Bulls 5th, the Raptors 6th, and then Cleveland's in 7. So I guess which of those teams do you think is going to be the odd one out, and they're going to likely have to play Brooklyn in that first play-in game?
Might be a common answer, but I think it's Cleveland because they're finally catching up to them, and it's hitting them at really the wrong time. They dealt with injuries all season long, obviously, but Mobley being out the next games, I believe, and then they've just been banged up really everywhere. Like Darius Garland's missed time. I still don't know when Jared Allen's back. I don't know if that's even like been said. So they're missing a lot, and it's just at the worst time. Toronto's probably the most solid team out of the bunch, and I think the Bulls they're good enough to maybe avoid playing. They don't have to win that many games. They got to really stay like they have to hold serve at this point, just not lose too many games, and they'll be outside of the play-in. So I would just have to say the Cavs, man, which really sucks because they were playing so well, like pre-All-Star break. They were like, I think, a 4 seed heading into the break.
Yeah.
The second half of the season's just been very rough for them, man. It sucks to see.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement then. I think I would probably aim toward Toronto getting that 5th seed, and then my Bulls in 6th, Cleveland in 7th. See, the Bulls have been playing really bad lately too. It's been frustrating for me to even watch at points, but I think the good thing for us is that we have the tiebreaker over both of these teams. So if it comes down to it, we'll have that edge. I think also like with Cleveland though, like you said, they've had so many injuries, like Jared Allen. I mean, Evan Mobley had an injury the other night. They said it's not too serious, but still it's like critical times in the season. Karis LeVert's been in and out. They've been the whole season without Colin Sexton, and then they lost Ricky Rubio way early on before he got traded. So it's like they've been really unlucky with the injuries. And then I think Markkanen the other night had an injury, but I think he played through it. Regardless, though, it's hard. They probably had the most consistent bad luck throughout the whole year. I think my Bulls got a lot of bad luck early on. Now we're starting to get luckier because we're getting more healthy outside of just Lonzo mainly, but the Cavs have been unlucky all year. And I think that, Toronto, I don't know how it's going to fare in the playoffs. It could work as an advantage because, that's when people shorten their rotations, and they don't really have a deep team necessarily. But the way they're playing, their core 5, they got, Thaddeus Young playing a big part now on the team as well. So I think they're going to keep it up. I think they have the easiest schedule of these 3 teams as well. So I would probably lean toward that too. Toronto 5, Chicago 6, and then I think Cleveland will play Brooklyn. But okay, so now I guess I'll ask you the big question. If they play Brooklyn in that game, do you think they win or lose? And if they lose, do you think they'll win the next matchup with Charlotte or Atlanta?
Depends on if Allen and Mobley are back. I think that's the big piece right there. If they're not, then I'm definitely taking Brooklyn. But if they're back, they have a good chance to win that game because it's a one-game situation. But Brooklyn's been very just wishy-washy. Even when KD and Kyrie are both playing, they've still been kind of wishy-washy. That defense is good. It's not good at all. And last night, like when they were playing the Detroit Pistons, it was like was a lot closer than it should be. Even though Detroit's been playing a lot better the second half of the season, game's a lot closer than it should be when you got both of your guys healthy and playing at home. And it took all of KD's 41 to really win that game. So I don't really think it's a guarantee that Brooklyn will just go into Cleveland and beat them if Cleveland has all their guys there. But if Allen and Mobley are not there, I'll definitely take Brooklyn in that matchup for sure.
Yeah, I think. See, I will say though, if they did match up, like Brooklyn's not gonna, they're not gonna dominate them. Like they're not gonna blow them out. It's gonna be a game that comes down to the wire. Even though, like realistically, you feel like Brooklyn should blow out a team like that with the Cavs, where they're missing like 2 or 3 or 4 guys. But I just don't think it'll happen. Now, I would probably still favor the Nets just because it's hard to bet against KD and Kyrie. Now, I just think it gets interesting too, and it's like they got to play either if they'd have to play Charlotte or Atlanta, and then if they lost that game, I mean that would be so painful for Cavs fans. The all year you're in 3 or 4, then you have to play Brooklyn. You're without several guys, and then you have to play. I don't know who would win that Charlotte Atlanta game. Maybe lean toward Atlanta because they have more experience, but Charlotte's been playing really good lately too. And Isaiah Thomas, I'd kind of be rooting for him as well. But I don't know. Yeah, that's just I guess where I stand on it. But yeah,
A couple of friends that are Cavs fans, and it's like I seeing their morale just drop. It just keeps going down and down and down. They're like, man, this is like the low point of the season. Which because like I think people look at it like, hey, as long as they make the playoffs, it's going to be a W of the season. But now that's not even guaranteed, like you said. Like they could easily slide out because it seems every team that's below them is playing some of their better basketball of the season, and they've been playing pretty much their worst like the last 10, 15 games or so. So it's trending in a bad direction. But I think one thing that's at least positive for them, I think they probably have the best coach out of the playing teams right now. I think JB Barrett is the best coach. I don't really have any faith in Steve Nash at all as a head coach. So, coaching in a one-game situation does play a big part. So that's one advantage that they will have going into that matchup potentially.
and especially like I said, if it does come down to like a wire-to-wire game where it's like very end, you got to make a crucial challenge, like then it would probably favor Cleveland, and that's kind of a good point that you brought that up. But yeah, if you want, we can move west here and talk about the play-in. Everyone's been talking about it lately, but the Pelicans and the Spurs right now are 9-10, and the Los Angeles Lakers, the team everyone before the season thought would maybe win the Western Conference at least, potentially the championship, they're on the outside looking in. So I guess who do you think will get that 9-10 spot? And if it's not the Lakers, then where do they go from here, really?
In the direction of it's going to be the Pelicans and the Spurs because, one, I'm not really too sure what's going on with LeBron. We've been hearing AD's supposed to be coming back, but that seems like a myth. I don't see him coming soon. And even when they've had all their guys, they still have not looked that good. And I believe their schedule to end the season is not as easy as the Spurs and the Pelicans, to say the least. So, and those teams they've been playing much better basketball. The Lakers all season been super inconsistent. So to answer about moving forward for that team, because I don't see them making the play-in, I don't see a lot of moves made in the offseason. I just made a video last night talking about them. And like Laker fans and LeBron fans want to say, well, AD missed so much time and Bron missed like 15, 20 games. They didn't get to jail or anything. I'm like, that's fine. But like I said earlier, when they were all on the court, they didn't really look that good anyways. And I think AD was very overwhelming this season for somebody who I expected to be like an MVP candidate. I had him on my top 3 list before the season, and he wasn't that when he was playing. So there's going to be a lot of moves made. I think Frank Vogel's probably gone. Rob Pelinka might. Like, there's going to be a lot of moves made. And how they made a lot of moves last offseason, this one might be even crazier, man. There might not be a lot of familiar faces in that locker room outside of LeBron and AD, and we'll see if they can get off Russ's contract. Shout out to him. He's been playing a lot better lately, but I don't think he can come back to the Lakers next season, and fans will approve of that. And I just don't see that happening, man. So it's going to be a busy offseason for them, especially if they do not make this play-in.
Yeah, I would kind of compare it just to the conversation we just had. It's kind of similar to the 5, 6, 7 in the East, where you got a team that's been playing their best basketball as of late, just like the Raptors. That's kind of how the Pelicans have been as of late. And then you look at a team that they're kind of like a little up and down. I would say that's kind of the Spurs, and that's what the Bulls were. But just another notch lower has been the Cavs, the Lakers. I don't know. Like you said too, I know people make excuses about the injuries and stuff, but even when they weren't, or even when they were playing, I think they played about 21 games or so, which I know some people say that's a small sample size. I think that's pretty decent sample size to get an idea, though, at least. And I think even if you would have taken their win percentage in those games, I think they were like 11-10, so they'd only be like the 8th seed, which still isn't that good. Like, you're still in the play-in, and that's even lower than they finished last year, when I would argue they had more injury issues, and probably more chemistry and more continuity as well with the team. So you look at that. I don't know. I really don't think they'll make it, because the only team that I think they're favored to beat from here on out is OKC, and that's near the end of the year. And those young teams, too, at the end of the year, they're going to want to, they got nothing else to play for. So they're just like, why not? More times than not, too, a lot of those guys, they might be fighting to keep a job in the NBA. Like, okay, let me get this contract the next year, or for the next 2 years, and let me play hard against the Lakers, because everyone's going to be watching that Lakers game because it's the Lakers, right? Like, everyone's watching them. So I wouldn't even sleep on that game. And if they can't win that, then I don't even know. Like, they really shouldn't be in the play-in. Really, I mean, everyone already has their own opinion on whether the play-in should even be a thing, because it's like 20 of 30 teams making a potential playoff opportunity. But if you can't even make the play-in and you got this many future Hall of Famers in the team, how can you make an excuse? You know what I mean?
People, like, I was talking to somebody on Twitter last night, like they was using the AD injury excuse. And I'm like, this is who AD is. Like, he's gonna miss games. He's only played over 62 games, I think, once or maybe twice at the most. That's who Anthony Davis is. He's gonna miss time. Some seasons is more than others, but he's gonna miss time. So you have to be accustomed to that, man. And it's just a shame, because LeBron's still playing so high level, but decisions in the front office, whether it was LeBron's blessing to go get Russell Westbrook, and I'm not blaming it solely on Russell Westbrook, because there's a lot more wrong with this team. But you had a potential to get some pieces that would fit better, that would help with the deficiencies that you do have. Maybe getting a Buddy Hield and getting some other complementary pieces. But they chased the star name, and it's coming back to bite them. And I think in their best interest to just, He's not healthy, don't force him in to play. Just let him sit out, get fully healthy. Let AD get fully healthy. Let him have an entire offseason to recover. And just come back next year and see what you can do. Because you said that's not a great record. And I always like to say about 25 games or so of the season, you kind of know what a team is. Obviously, this core group, even if they were healthy, they weren't going to make that much noise. Like you said, they were like an 8. That's like an 8 seed maybe in the West right now. So, go ahead. Miss is fine. Regroup for next season and see what can happen. But I'm actually a fan of. I don't know about you, but I'm a fan of the play-in.
I mean, I do like that this year. Like, well, I mean, even last year we did, because we got a matchup of like LeBron and AD against Steph Curry. But I don't know. I do like it to an extent where it's like, especially now with all these injuries and stuff, and all these teams that are kind of coasting most of the regular season, you'll get to see kind of a single elimination style, sometimes double elimination in the 7-8 game. But for star players like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Paul George, LeBron, if AD comes back, Westbrook, like LaMelo Ball, Trae Young. So it's just like, who would have thought that we'd see like that many, I guess. In a way, it kind of adds, it's just adding more game sevens. And I think everyone always lives for the game sevens. So in that aspect, I do like it. I just don't like the fact that there's so many teams. Like, there's so many teams that get a chance. Like, I respect what the Spurs are doing right now. They're trying to get into the playoffs, but they're not a playoff team. Like, as harsh as it is, they're not a playoff team. DeJounte Murray's been great this year. He was an all-star, but they're not a playoff team. If that answers your question.
Thing is, there's two problems with the play-in. I don't think the 7th seed really be involved, because when you look at it, a lot of times the 7th seed is significantly better than the 8 seed and the 9 and 10. Like they are way better. Like even right now, like the Cap, they got like 42 wins or something like that. And I think Charlotte just hit 39. Like they're comfortably like 3 games above them or even more. And like you said, the Spurs and the Lakers are like 31 and 44. Like they're not good. They're bad teams. They're bad teams. So it's like these teams really get a chance to get in. That's kind of iffy. But I think the good thing is it keeps teams competitive. Because like you look at a team like the Pelicans, they started the season like 1 and 12 or something crazy like that. And they could easily right off the season, Zion don't even try to come back. We're not even gonna make the CJ trade, but they're like we can still make the play in and potentially sneak in the postseason. You never know what can happen. I think the Grizzlies showed us that last season, so I think there's definitely some pros and cons to it. Hopefully they clean it up just a little bit because, like you said, there's just so many teams involved and it can get a little overwhelming at times.
I think like the best way would be like go back to how it was the first year, like not last year, but remember when the Blazers and the Grizzlies played for that scenario, and it's like, okay, you had to beat us twice, or if you're the higher seed, you just have to win once. And I think even how they had it is you have to be within 2 games of the 8 seed to even qualify for that. So that kind of adds an element where it's like, all right, these teams are pretty close, and then even then, like the team who has an edge still has that advantage. So I think, and actually, it does make sense because you play those 2 playing games, and they say like you have to have a 2-game difference. So like if the lower seed won, then they'd be like tied in record per se, and they'd have that tiebreaker. So that would probably make the most sense going forward. But yeah, that's I guess like my only thing. Too many teams. But yeah,
I agree.
But speaking of the play-in, there's another team that just got one of their stars back, and they're thinking maybe they could get some more stuff back in the next few days, few weeks, and that is the Los Angeles Clippers with Paul George. Now, he made his debut the other night, 34 points, 6 assists, 4 steals. I don't know about you, but it felt like to me like I was getting like flashbacks to like the last MJ game, like against the Jazz in the finals, like where he's like, all right, I'm a scorer for a 2-for-1, then I'm gonna get the steal on Malone, then I'm gonna hit the jump shot. Like he was doing everything on both ends. Like I don't know how many times he poked the ball loose from Donovan Mitchell in that fourth quarter. It was insane. But now they got him back and he's looking 100%. They're saying Norman Powell will likely be back. There's no update really on Kawhi, but I mean, who knows? Like, I personally think he's going to try to come back at the very least. I don't think he's going to, like, try and sit out like he did 4 years ago with the Spurs, but I'll leave it up to you. If just with this team right now, like, what chance do you give the Clippers? And if they were to get those other guys back as well, where do you think it puts them?
Those other guys back, that's just another scary lower seed that could potentially play a top seed in the first round. But wait, this team is just, I wouldn't want to see them in the first round because, one, I've been saying this since Kawhi got hurt last year. They just play like they have absolutely nothing to lose. Like, if they're down 25 like they were last night, doesn't matter. Like, they still have a chance to win this game. Like they showed, they were able to come back and win that game. And they just play with that, just, they're full apart. That's just how they play, man. Ty Lue has really put this team up, and that's another reason why they're so scary is because Ty Lue is probably one of the best playoff adjusters in the league. He showed that last season. And to play them in the first round of the postseason, no matter who's there, if it is just Paul George and maybe Norman Powell comes back too, and even if it's not Kawhi, that's still going to not be an easy series, man, because this team is so well coached. They got a lot of guys that can produce for them. And they just got guys that show, like, we're some playoff performers. Paul George was a playoff performer last year. Reggie Jackson could not miss in the postseason. Terrence Mann had a big game last season. Luke Kennard very good this year. Like, they got guys that can just hoop. And it's March. This is like a classic March Madness team. Like, they got the one really good player, and then it seems like a bunch of role players, but they can just win. They can beat anybody. So if I'm the Suns, if I'm the Grizzlies, I don't want to see this team in the first round, bro. I don't want to see them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of right there with you. We saw them last year when they only had one of their 2 stars in Paul George, and they still took Phoenix to 6 games. And really, they almost won one of the games they lost. Like, it could have went to Game 7. So, I don't know. Like, this is a team that you definitely can't count them out. I think they have one of the best, if not the best, coach this year in Tyronn Lue. I don't know if he'll win Coach of the Year just because the Suns have been so dominant, and you could also look at Taylor Jenkins and stuff like that. But, he's one of the best coaches, and he's done one of the most impressive jobs all year long. But getting a guy back like Paul George, see, the one thing for me that I liked is that he looked like he was 100%, which tells me if he's 100%, then I feel like when Norman Powell and Kawhi, if they come back this year, then they'll be 100%. And if they're 100% right when they come back, like right out of the gate, then that's going to be tough for any team to play. I personally think, if they have Kawhi and if they have Paul George, they're probably the best team in the West, which is crazy to say because they're like the 8th seed. They haven't played much together all year long, but like you said, they just go out there and they play. Like, they don't really think about it twice. And, especially if they get, matchups that, they're more familiar, I think, with some of these other teams that sometimes fall too much in love with the three-point shot, like Dallas in the past or Utah. They did it the other night. So I could very well see them, if they got all those guys back, really if they just got Kawhi and Paul George back, I think that puts them like seriously on the map. If they get Norman Powell back and they still have Paul George and stuff like that, then they could really compete with these teams like Phoenix and Memphis, but they'll probably come up like just short. But even with just Paul George, like they'll have a chance to compete. So, they're not a team that's going to get swept, or I don't even think they'll lose in like a gentleman's sweep. I think no matter what, they'll probably lose in like 6 or 7 if they were to get bounced in the first round. But if they get these guys back in the next 2 weeks, especially, Kawhi, that's kind of the crazy one because, he's not on social media. No one really knows where he's at. It's kind of like a secret. And if we get the notification one day where it's like Kawhi Leonard is back, then I think it's going to send shockwaves to the Suns, to the Grizzlies, to Golden State, to Dallas, all these other teams, especially to Utah. We've seen how they've played against them like past few years. But, yeah, I just think that they're a legit team, and it'll be interesting to see them in the playoffs, assuming they can get through the play-in, because, of course, nothing's guaranteed right now. But, yeah.
They'll have a tough first game matchup, though, because the Timberwolves have been the best during the second half of the season. So nothing's going to be easy. And the only thing I worry about if Kawhi does come back is asking him to completely ramp it up for playoff basketball. Like, that's the only thing I'm a little questionable about. Not that he can't do it. It's just that's asking a lot for somebody that hasn't played basketball in a year. That's the only thing. Like, I had the same questions when I heard Jamal Murray might be coming back with Michael Porter Jr. Like, it's asking a lot for these guys to come off major injuries and just all of a sudden be superstars again. That's a lot. But if anybody, Kawhi, man, he's a robot. He's not human. So you can definitely see it for sure.
Yeah, I think the one good thing in their favor is I think they played Minnesota a few times like early in the year, and that was when they did have Paul George, and they played pretty well against him. Now, several months have passed since then. Teams have evolved to, like, I guess, different stages here near the end of March, almost April. So I don't know. Like, anything could really happen. The Timberwolves have been playing probably their best basketball ever since the All-Star break. Maybe they've slowed down like a little over the past week, but like for 2 or 3 weeks there, they were the best team in the NBA like for that stretch. So I don't know. It'll be tough, but I think the Clippers, even with just Paul George, that should be enough, I think, to get them into the top 8. And well, they're going to be in the top 8 record-wise, but like get them into the playoffs, if you know what I mean.
Gives them a chance because even last season, I would say get her. I think they might have won the whole thing. I think that was really their year to win the championship. But if it's not this season, we're gonna be talking about next year. Like, this is the squad. Like, this team is gonna make some real noise next season for sure.
And speaking of California teams, we can transition here to the Golden State Warriors, who they've kind of been sliding a little bit as of late. Most of the year they were around 1 or 2, kind of fighting there with Cleveland or with Phoenix, and then they had their injuries. Klay Thompson's missed most of the year early on, and then he came back, and then Draymond went out, then he came back, and then Steph Curry went out. So you know, right now they're in the 3 seed. They're about a game up on Dallas. So, do you think they'll be capable of holding on to that in the last few games here? And if not, where do you think they'll end up?
I think they're okay enough without Steph to hold on to the 3 seed, but I'll admit this is a team I was never really that high on this season. Like I've been pretty adamant on that. I felt like the Suns were always head and shoulders better than them, to be honest. And I feel like they were banking a lot on like Clay coming back and still being Clay Thompson, and he's been up and down, but he's been playing a little bit better. But the Steph injury has really, that's obviously not a good thing for them, and we still don't know when he's officially going to be back. But I don't know, man. I could see them still reaching the conference finals, but I'm not super fond of this team, man. They're good, but they're not great. I don't think they're championship level great. I know. I still think the Suns are by far the team to beat in the Western Conference. And even if Steph Curry comes back, I would still take the Suns in a potential, conference finals matchup. But to answer your question, I do think they're good enough to save the 3 seed, but is that really that good for them? Because then you might have to play the potential MVP in the first round in Jokic, potentially. Like that could be your first round matchup. So I don't know how favored they will be in that series. I would probably take them in that series, but it's not going to be an easy one.
I think if I were to predict, I think they will face Denver in the first round. But I actually do think they're going to drop because I think Dallas, they've been playing really well as of late. Like I said, they're only like a game behind them now, and I think they have the tiebreaker over them too. So they just need like that 1 game edge. And the Warriors, I don't know how many per se easy teams they have left. And it seems like their offense is kind of taking a hit. It did too, like when they were without Draymond, but I think like those are the two major pieces to the puzzle. It's Draymond and Steph Curry. We haven't seen them really on the court other than 1 game. Like I think it was the first game Draymond came back. So we haven't seen them really on the court together in 2022 hardly at all. So like without one or both of those guys, it's going to be harder for sure. But I think they're probably going to drop the fourth, and I think Denver's probably going to leapfrog Utah just the way that they've been playing. And then they'll probably meet up in that 4-5. And if the Warriors get that, it's going to be tough because even though, like you said, they'd probably still be favored to win that series, they haven't played great against Denver this year. I think Denver's beaten them 3 times now.
Yep.
And the other game was still close. So that's not someone you'd want instead of maybe more ideally Utah, who they played really well against so far this year. If they play a team like the Jazz in the first round and then maybe Curry's, maybe he's back, but he's not back. Like he's not playing like Steph Curry or something. They could get past this series and then that warms him up to get ready for Memphis or something in the second round. Then the Suns in the next round. And maybe by that time, they can start getting that chemistry, that continuity back together. They already have the championship experience with their big three. I mean, Iguodala, Steve Kerr. So they got guys there. And, I mean, if they're healthy, that's the big thing. If they're healthy, then I think they'll pose a threat to just about anybody. And they could go all the way. It just doesn't seem likely with all the bad luck and injuries they've had ever since, the start of 2022. So I think they'll probably fall to fourth. I think they still should beat Denver, but that would match them up with Phoenix in the next round. And I don't know if they'll be completely prepared to take on the best team in the NBA this year like that early. So it might be a little bit of a disappointment, like considering how great they started the season.
Yeah, and I think Phoenix is just so built to play that Warriors team, man. I feel like they got the wings to contend with the Splash Brothers and Jordan Poole. Chris Paul coming back is big. D Book has been amazing all season long. Whether you have him in MVP discussions or not, that's up to you. But he's been amazing. And then Ayton in the postseason, he knows how to really dominate small ball teams. And the Warriors are going to try and go small. And Ayton happened early in the season. Ayton was dominating those guys when they tried to go small. Even when Looney was in there, he was still dominating. So I feel like if they do hold at the 3 seed and they can get through that first round, they'll be okay. But if you have to, like you said, if you have to play the Suns in the second round, this team's not ready for that. They're not ready, man. You're going to have to ask Steph Curry to come back in. We need you to be the Steph that you were the first month and a half of the season. Like, you have to be that kind of player this entire series. That's a tough ask, bro. So I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of tailor made for the Suns. It's like the Suns conference to lose this season, and whether they do that or not, that's up to them. But like everything would have to be picture perfect. Like an injury might have to happen to some team, and they would have to have the best matchups in the first round, second round, conference finals, and even when they if they get to the finals too. So they might be in that tier where it's like everything has to go just right for us to win the championship this year.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it right on the nail there. I mean, their luck hasn't been great, but they're going to need a lot if they want to prevail. But if you want, we can transition to the NBA trivia game if you are ready. I'll read you the rules so you know what's going on, so you're not like
Okay.
confused. So basically, I'm going to give you 5 questions. Each question has 5 possible hints, and for each question, you get 3 guesses and you get 2 skips. If you guess it right in less hints, you get more points. So say you only use 1 hint, you get it right, you get 5 points. 2 hints, 4 points, and then it keeps going from there. So that's 25 possible points. And at the very end, as an impossible level bonus question regarding me in the NBA in some way. You
Okay.
get that right, then you'll get an extra 5 points. But that one has no hints. It's just like a random guess.
Okay.
But yeah, are you ready for the trivia?
Let's get it.
All right. So the first question, the first hint is this is a current NBA player who has had multiple seasons averaging over 20 points per game in the NBA.
I need more.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one. All right. So the second hint is this guy originally signed with the Phoenix Suns in the summer of 2012, but his offer was matched by the team he was playing for then.
He's still in the NBA now.
He's still in the NBA, still a current player.
2012.
And I will say, like, I try to put like people on here that aren't like super hard. Like, I'm not gonna give you some random two-way guy or something like that.
Who I should know. I should know this. 2012.
So he's been around for a while.
That's my prime years of watching basketball. I should know this. I'm gonna need another guess. I'm gonna need another hint. Another
Okay,
hint.
so the third hint is he originally planned to team up in college at Illinois with Derrick Rose.
Still in the league. Eric Gordon.
It is Eric Gordon.
Oh my!
Do you remember the teaming up part?
I remember that, but now it's coming back to my mind that he did sign an offer sheet with the Suns. Like I
Yeah,
remember.
I remember like when that first happened. That was one of the first times I saw it, and he was like so mad because like he
Yeah.
wanted out of there like instantly. Um, but yeah, so that's pretty good. You got 3 points. I always tell my guests to try and aim for at least 10 by the end. So you're definitely on pace right now. So the second question, the first hint. Now this is a current NBA team who had Paul Silas as the head coach for their first season in franchise history.
Paul Silas. Phoenix. Oh no, not Phoenix. I feel like it's the. I want to say the Pacers.
It is not the Pacers.
Ah,
So that's strike number one.
okay.
So you still got 2 more guesses and you got 2 more skips. The second hint is nobody represented them in the All-Star game this year for the first time in 9 years.
First time in 9 years not having an All Star. 9 years has pushed us back to 2013.
Yeah.
What teams did not have All Stars this year? Ooh. Is it the Blazers?
It is not Portland.
Okay.
So that's strike number 2. You still got 1 more guess left and you got 2 more skips. The third hint is their franchise was the first ever to be taken control of by the NBA itself at one point.
Well, this was New Orleans, but at the time they were the Hornets when they got controlled, if I'm not mistaken. So would it be the Pelicans?
It is the Pelicans.
Okay.
And I would probably gave it to you anyways because that was a little bit confusing because they
Yeah.
were it was New Orleans Hornets when they were, but like their franchise goes back like all the New Orleans days.
So they had an all-star for like 8 years in a row.
Nine or yeah 8 years because like six of them were AD, and then they had Brandon Ingram once and Zion last
Yeah.
year. Yeah,
Yeah, I forget about that year. Dang.
that is a bit like weird because like you don't think of the Pelicans as having an All Star like all these years in a row. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Dang, he's a perennial all-star. He did make it like his second season. Yep.
Yeah, well, I think he even missed it this year. So like this is his first time he's missed it since he was a rookie. So,
Right.
but yeah,
Exactly.
so you got that was a 3-pointer. So you got 6 points right now. Not too bad. So the third question, the first hint is this current NBA head coach was a 4-year letterman in both basketball and golf in college.
I need another hint.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one. The second hint is this guy grew up as a Phoenix Suns fan.
Phoenix Suns fan. Mm, Phoenix Suns fan, man. I think I'm gonna need another hint. This is a tough one. This is a tough one.
I'll say this is probably the toughest of the five.
Okay.
So the third hint is he started as an assistant under Greg Popovich,
Well, that
which
could be a lot. A lot
yeah,
of people.
yeah, there's a lot of people to choose from there. But
My first guess, I don't know if he was an assistant under Pop though. I want to say Ime, but I don't know if he was an assistant.
Ime Udoka for Boston.
Yeah. Hmm.
Are you gonna roll with that guess? Or are you gonna hold off real
That's my
quick?
guess. That's my guess.
Unfortunately, it is not Udoka.
Okay.
All right, so
That's one guess.
the 2-point hint is this guy won Coach of the Year multiple times.
Multiple time coach of the year. It's Steve Kerr, isn't it?
It is not Steve Kerr.
That makes all the sense in the world. 'Cause he went to Arizona. I think he might have not been under Pop, but he played for Pop though. That's the thing. Yeah. Okay.
He did play for Pop, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so the final hint, you can still get a point here, is counting his days as an assistant coach. He will be participating as a coach in his 25th straight postseason.
25 straight postseasons.
It's a lot. It's a lot of time.
That is a lot of time. Two-time coach of the year. Let me think of playoff teams right now. So it's it's got to wait. Oh, I don't know. No, he did win too. It's Bud. It's Coach Bud.
It is Budenholzer, yeah.
Okay, it's Coach Bud, man.
Yeah,
Okay, that was a tough one. That was a tough one.
that was tough. Yeah, like I was thinking about putting in there too. Like I guess he led his team in basketball to a state championship in high school, which
He did. I
it's
didn't know
pretty
that.
like you. I feel like you just look at him and you're like, nah, he probably never played.
Right.
um, but nah, like he must have been like a bucket back then.
That's crazy.
But
He
yeah,
did. He did win two because I think he won his first year with Milwaukee, and then the year in Atlanta when they won like 60 games.
yeah, yeah. Those are the 2 years. But yeah, so you still got 7. That's not bad. You get at least 3 more. You got the 10. So here's the fourth question, starting with the first hint.
Okay.
This former NBA player has been teammates over his career with guys such as Chris Webber and LaMarcus Aldridge.
Chris Webber.
Now it could have been at the same time, maybe not. It doesn't specify.
Can't be at the same time because those guys never played it. I don't think they ever played together. Former teammates. Trying to think what the former NBA player you said, right?
A former NBA player.
It's tough. Nobody's coming to mind. Let me get this second hint.
Okay, so the second hint is the greatest player ever selected at the same draft spot as this guy was Mark Price. So, if you know where Mark Price was drafted in his draft, then maybe you'll know, like, this is where this guy was selected in his.
I'm thinking about that first hint, bro. Like that should be kind of. You said Chris Webber and all
Chris Webber, LaMarcus Aldridge, yes.
former NBA player. Okay. This guy, I don't know why this guy comes to mind, but he checks off both of the boxes. Is it Gerald Wallace?
Wow, that's pretty good. It is Gerald Wallace.
Really?
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yo.
I didn't. I mean, like, see, because he was with Portland for such a small amount of time, and then like he was with
Yeah.
Sacramento, like when he was basically kind of like a role player at that point. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's impressive that you actually got it that early.
Yo, I remembered the Sacramento team from 2K because he was on it. I'm like, oh, I didn't know Gerald Wallace was on this team. And then the Portland year, I just remember that team like they were supposed to be good, but they ended up being really bad. I
Yeah,
think that's when they had Jamal Crawford on the team. I think it was the year after Brandon Roy, but they still had like Wesley Matthews. Like they were still like talented team, but they were pretty bad.
and
So
one of my hints was gonna be he was also traded for the pick that became Damian Lillard as well,
yeah,
which
that would have gave it away.
yeah. But that's crazy that you got it after two hints. So that puts you at I think 11 right now, which is nice. So now you
what's
got
the
the goal.
what's the record?
The record is 13. So you have a chance to set it.
Okay, but
But we'll see. All right. Starting with question 5, hint number 1. This is a current NBA player that went to the same college as Simbu Lar.
Simbular.
If you remember Simbu Lar, the giant.
My guess is Anthony Simons.
It is not Anthony Simons.
Okay,
Okay, so
he went
that's
to that was IMG, wasn't it?
the college.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know if I'll reveal. I'll if we get down to the final question, like to potentially
Okay.
break the record, then I'll
Gotcha.
reveal it if you need it. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. So the second hint is this guy didn't start playing basketball until he was 16.
Oh, that could be a few dudes. That could be a few people. It's not Joel. 16.
16. Yes.
Only guy that really comes to mind is Pascal.
Are you gonna roll with Siakam here?
I'm gonna go with Siakam.
That's pretty good. It is
Wait,
Siakam.
hold up. He went to New Mexico State, didn't he?
Yes, that's where it was.
That's where Simbular went?
He played there, but right before him. So his last year, Boular's last year was the year before Siakam's first year.
Okay. I might have got him confused with somebody else. Wasn't he from India though, Simbular? He was like the
I,
first Indian player ever.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I
Um,
must have him confused with somebody that went to IMG
yeah.
collegiately.
I was trying to think of like, I'm like, what would be a good starter hint for this? And then I was just
Yeah,
like, Simbular, because I didn't even remember he went to college. I'm like, I was thinking like, oh, he was a foreign player, like he came straight overseas. But nah, so you got now 4 points to 11. That's 15 you got, which is
got the
nice.
record.
And if you get this, you'll have 20. This is the bonus question. So
All
are you
right.
ready for the bonus?
I think I'm ready, man. I think I'm ready.
Okay. Just to warn you, nobody has ever gotten the bonus correctly. So
Okay.
this could be tough. So I've gone to several games in the NBA, probably about more than a dozen at this point. So I've seen some good players. But the first player that I saw that is an NBA Hall of Famer is who?
How old are you?
Ooh, I don't know
Did
if
I
I
get
should. I
the
don't know if I should reveal that, but I'm gonna say. I'll say under 30.
under 30? Okay, so you've been to like you said about a dozen games. Dang, the Hall of Fame list is long. There's a lot of guys that could be. Hmm.
And also, like, it could potentially be someone who played in the NBA, but maybe made the Hall of Fame as a contributor overseas.
Okay.
Lot to digest here.
Was he the only Hall of Famer on the court?
um, I think so. Yeah, because I think I've seen others, but I saw that this one first.
Okay. All right.
Or at least like future Hall of Famers after that. But
Okay.
yeah.
This is okay. I see why this is an impossible one. It's tough because there's like a bunch of names you could throw out there. Hmm. Let me think of somebody. I'm just about to throw a name out there. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna just guess Tim Duncan. I don't know.
That's a solid guess, but it is not Tim Duncan. He was actually teammates with Tim Duncan in his last season. We'll see if you know who it is there.
He went with Tim his last season.
Well, this guy's last season, not Tim Duncan's last season.
This
So he played his last year with the Spurs.
T Mac.
Yeah, it was T Mac. I saw him when he was playing for Atlanta, and it was like in 2011 or 2012 or something like that. Yeah, I'm not that old. I just didn't want to reveal and kind of give it away.
No, that's solid though. I wasn't thinking T Mac though because like his prime ended like 2008. Like his prime ended pretty early. So I'm just like,
and that's that's a big reason why I wanted to put it in here because like if you thought I would go to a game around like 2011, 2012, like 2010, like you wouldn't be thinking of T Mac because by that time like his best years were behind him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was it a Hawks home game or was it a different team?
I think it was a Hawks Pacers game because I think I got it was like a thing I got from like Pizza Hut. It was like a ticket, like a 3 or 4 ticket thing, for like a book reading, and then I went to that game and he was in it for the Hawks. But yeah.
So wait, it was a Pacers home game?
It was a Pacers home game, yeah.
That's where I've been there. The last 2 NBA games I've been to have both been Pacer home games.
Nice. Not the most recent one I went to, but the one before that I went to was a Pacers home game. I went to it was the game where DeMar hit the game winner on.
For real? You was at that game?
Yeah, I got it even recorded too because I'm like something's about to go down.
That's dope. That is dope, man.
It was crazy. But yeah, so even though you didn't get the bonus, you still got the most points in trivia, which is amazing. How do you feel about that?
It's a blessing, man. Humbling experience, coming on here getting 15 points in the trivia. I'm just mad at that one question I got a 1-pointer though.
maybe that just means next time I got to go harder. Got to go harder with the hints.
Probably got to, bro. Got to.
But yeah, I think that's basically gonna close everything out for the show. Again, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching. You got any final thoughts from you?
Once again, I appreciate you for having me and subscribe to my channel, Rik Knows Hoops. I'm sure he'll have it in the description, man. We're almost to 500 subscribers, so appreciate the support.
Yeah, I will have it in the description. Go check him out or whatever. Go check him out. Pointing the wrong way. But yeah, go check out his channel. Like you said, he's been booming lately. Probably posts more consistent than me. So there's that as well.
You put together these long videos though, man, with a lot of different topics. So that's still a W.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, again, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out. Peace.